Hey guys, it's Danny. Alrighty, today I'm going to show you two extremely special orchids, and I know this might not be grammatically correct, but I just want to emphasize the fact that I do find these orchids special indeed, and I'm really excited to have them. So before we get to them, and I'm gonna tell you what they are, I received these orchids, I think, from one of my viewers. I doubted it's a company, but who knows, it might be one of you guys or a company, I really don't know. So I received them in my PO box in a box that did not have a sender. It just had my PO box address on it, and it came from the UK. It didn't have a note or a letter inside, so I'm not entirely sure who they are from. If you wish to remain anonymous, that's okay, but just know that I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sending these orchids, whoever you might be, either a person or a company. Because I have to tell you, even though these orchids are already repotted, the pots in which they came and the medium in which they came, they didn't really look like they were coming from a home grower. I'm not entirely sure. They just appeared to me like they were coming from a nursery. I might be wrong. And I actually had to repot them because the medium in which they were potted was very loose and nice and fresh. But this type of medium on transport, because of movements, it kind of tends to get out of the pot, go everywhere. And right after I unpacked them, I needed to pot them up because they were not sitting in their pots. But they are actually doing pretty great. So no more suspense, let me tell you what they are. Let's start one by one. So let's start with this one, and let's read on the tag. Here we have the Cattleya dowiana variety rosita. Now, about this one, you might know quite a great deal. There are quite a few YouTubers, including me, talking a little bit about it. I did mention in the past that the dowiana is one of those orchids that is on my wish list. Available for sale, most probably, are the seedlings, because this happens to be a pretty expensive Cattleya for whatever reason. And the most common way to obtain this species is by buying seedlings. Problem is, if the seedlings have little issues, this orchid will not take it. She is a pretty finicky Cattleya, as it just so happens. Ironically, I find Cattleyas, I think, the easiest orchids you can grow. Easier than phals, to be truly honest with you. So this Cattleya was on my wish list for a long time. It all started with an article that I read on Chadwick and Son, if I'm not mistaken, and of course I'll link you down below to that article if it is still up on the internet and available. They were talking about this species as being the best fragrant species there is. I'm not going to refer here to hybrids, not even primary hybrids, simple species. So they were saying that this orchid, apart from the beautiful flower, which is super huge, has the most beautiful fragrance in the whole Cattleya family. Whether this is true or not, I really don't know, but of course it intrigued me and I always wanted to have it. The dowiana actually comes in a few varieties, not many, but a few. The most common one, let's say, is the golden variety. It has golden petals, a sort of a yellow color with a beautiful reddish and pretty veiny lip. If you search for pictures, you'll see what I mean. But there is also the Rosita variety, which is the one that I have here. It's supposed to be just as big, just as fragrant, but the petals and sepals have a nice rosy flush to them. Therefore, the Rosita name. And yeah, I'm not sure which one I like best. At this point, I just really want to have the dowiana, but the Rosita, it has a certain je ne sais quoi, maybe. On my wish list, I had both of them. I do have a hybrid of the dowiana in the form of the Saint Andre, which you might have seen in the past month. It has been in bloom. In case you missed that video, I'll just link it down below. It just happens to be one of my favorite orchids currently in my collection. It has the hugest flower. It is actually bigger than my Pachara, my Vanda Pachara flowers, and that says a lot. The Pacharas have huge flowers. So that's a trait inherited from the dowiana. And of course, my curiosity for the dowiana increased exponentially. If the hybrid has such a big sized flower, you can imagine the parent, right? And as far as that hybrid that I have goes, he is very easy to care for, but it does also have the Brassavola, which I personally find easy to care for. A bit on the slow side of things, it only blooms once a year, but other than that, pretty resilient and easy to grow. So anyway, bottom line, for the past 3 years or so, ever since I learned about the existence of this orchid, I was on the lookout for it, and sadly, it's really hard to find a mature dowiana, and if you find it, it really is very expensive, at least for me. This orchid and the species orchids that we can grow are propagated in cultivation currently. I'm not sure if we still get them from their natural habitat. I hope not. We can propagate them so easy. So yeah, even if this is a species, it is definitely cultivated by humans, not obtained from the wild. And to support that, well, the multitude of seedlings we can find for sale. Not really mature specimens. Most of them are just seedlings, most probably obtained through pollination of mature orchids. So there we go. Inside the box, we had a beautiful Dowiana. She's not a mature orchid, but she's not a very, very tiny seedling either in comparison to what I saw. I'm sure she is about 3 years away from blooming, maybe less, but definitely she is not a very young orchid. She used to have another leaf here. This is the neopseudobulb, but this leaf here was damaged on transport. It had similar damage to this leaf, but the color of it was a bit too dark for my liking, so I decided to cut it off. I wasn't sure if it was black rot or if it would advance. I really didn't want to take any risks. So I received these last week actually, and I had to cut most of this leaf. But as you can see, the wound healed pretty nice. I applied cinnamon there, it dried very fast, and there is no more infection. This pseudobulb, on the other hand, seems to be quite okay, and the leaf on it looks okay. A little physical damage here, but that's nothing to worry about if it didn't get infected. And it's dry right now, most probably. It will never get infected. Root-wise, we're not the greatest. Transport might have affected this orchid a little bit, but we're not all that bad either. You can see here a little root which goes inside the medium and is a little bit green. That is a viable root, and it keeps this orchid hydrated. It's not 100% in tip-top condition, but it really doesn't look bad. And I think maybe I see something here, a little nubbin just starting to swell. Maybe I will have a new growth pretty soon, which would make me really, really happy. So this has been the Cattleya Dowiana variety Rosita that I'm just so excited for. Cannot believe I own one, which is not a tiny little seedling. Let's get to the other one, because this is quite the special orchid as well. So first let's check out the tag. We have here Oncidium haematochilum crossed with maureen. This is a primary hybrid as far as I can see. And it is labeled as an Oncidium. Well, the thing is, it's pretty much like the Tolumnias or the Cycopsis. A lot of years ago, both of these, the Tolumnia and Cycopsis, were considered Oncidiums, but different types of Oncidium, such as equitant Oncidium or whatever other popular names people gave them. This is actually known as a mule ear Oncidium. Why? Well, because of the leaves. This orchid does not produce a big pseudobulb. It actually stays really, really tiny. And the leaves have this elongated shape to them, which I presume resembles mule ears. I have never seen a mule up front, but I imagine there is a resemblance. Nowadays, these orchids have a different name that reminds me of Trichocentrum, but I'm not sure. That's a totally different orchid. I'll write it somewhere on the screen so you know. They have been, of course, reclassified as something else. I have to say, I don't know about these orchids for such a long time. They're pretty new to me. I'm still researching about them. It's not like the Dowiana that I knew about for years and I wanted it. This is something pretty new, although in cultivation I'm sure it's not. These orchids have flowers very, very similar to Oncidiums, reason why I suspect they were classified as Oncidiums at some point in the past. But flowers alone are not enough to properly put a certain orchid in a certain family or category. Colors are wonderful, and I checked the color on this hybrid. It's so good. Oh, I just remembered something. Okay, I'm gonna Google the name and I'm gonna tell you because my boyfriend mentioned something about this orchid. Alrighty, Google to the rescue. So right now this orchid is classified as Trichocentrum, haematochilum crossed with maureen. Okay, so my boyfriend said something really interesting about the name of this orchid, haematochilum. It sounds to him like it comes from the Greek language, and it kind of means bleeding heart. So to him it sounds like this name is actually two words glued together, and it inspires him this name that I just told you. And if you take a look at the flower, you will see that actually it is kind of white with red dots. It's a metaphor, but it does have the red color, which I love. Furthermore, these types of orchids are also very fragrant, as the internet suggests, including this one, or the parents of this one. So my little orchid, yet again I had to repot, and I took a look at the root system. It's not in the best condition, but yet again I think it's because of the transport. We do, however, have a root, which greens up when I water it, and this orchid doesn't really look dehydrated. Also, ever since I got it, I see two nubbins forming from the latest growth. They are two pseudobulbs, I presume, because the new growth already had a spent flower spike. I did not receive it in bloom, but if I look at the other pseudobulbs, it would appear they did bloom in the past as well. I think each pseudobulb has a flower spike. So this is either a division or the seedling pseudobulbs are just missing. It is mature, so you can see it's not big. Let me just show you for a perspective. It's just as tall as my palm. It's quite a tiny orchid, which is mature, able to bloom, so it will not really take all that much space. If we consider other Oncidiums that have multiple leaves and they tend to spread like a fan, this is quite space saving. When I first unpacked it, I thought it was the Cycopsis. Considering that I lost mine, I thought somebody sent me Cycopsis, but I have to tell you, it's even better. And one of you guys actually asked me, was it Laurie or Mihaela? I think Mihaela asked me if I will ever get a Cycopsis again because she misses Cycopsis video. And yeah, I will get it. I will. I did enjoy the Cycopsis very much, and I do believe it's a pretty easy orchid. And it's not that it costs too much, but I always kind of had other options that I really wanted to try out or have, since I had the experience with the Cycopsis and I know how it looks like and I'm already adjusted to it. I'm not all that eager to repurchase it, but eventually I will. I want to have two Cycopsises, the yellow one, which is actually the Alba variety, and the proper one. Until then though, I think we will enjoy this beautiful mule ear Oncidium, which I am really excited for. And I'm really happy to see that it's already starting to create new growths. And by the way, this one had damage on this leaf as well. I was again scared it's gonna spread. It was something similar to this leaf. So yeah, it happens on transport. But there we go. These are my beautiful two new very fascinating orchids. Now I will make this month a male video because I did get quite a few orchids. I just wanted to dedicate this video to these two orchids because they're species, or at least a species that I don't have in my collection, and talk a little bit about it. Because if I were to discuss these things in that video, it would have been too long, or this video I think is long. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have experience with any of these, please share it in a comment down below. I'm gonna read it, and other viewers will see your comments and your experience, and we're just gonna learn from each other. So you know the drill. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. A share would be wonderful. And if you'd like to watch other orchid videos from me on a regular basis, simply subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that YouTube alerts you anytime I upload. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye! We also have some news from the No ID Paphiopedilum that I received from Max. I think he wants to create a flower spike here. It's still very early, but it's just a growth that has a totally different color from the other leaves. Now, with Paphiopedilums, you need to have a lot of patience. As many of you have commented lately, yes, they take their sweet time to develop a flower spike, and by the time they're in bloom, you know, it's Christmas. So yeah, it's a little frustrating, but if it is a flower spike, then the show will be worth it.